Good morning and welcome to Masterclass Junior. As you can see, I'm on my own. The kids are busy today, so I thought I would prepare dinner, just me and you guys. I've got a beautiful curry. Now it's going to be a curry that's got loads of flavour, but no heat. It's not hot and spicy and fiery, although you can add chilli if you want to, but I think it's super healthy, nutritious, loads of ingredients in there. But I'm also going to show you how to make a really lovely onion bhaji. Little ones, we're going to utilise the spice mix that I'm going to show you how to make, and we're going to make little bhajis, but instead of deep fat frying them, we're going to bake them in muffin tins. Makes it super easy, really delicious, nice and crispy. It's a fantastic dinner. So let's get started. Now the first thing we need to do is get our vegetables cooking. And then we're going to get our bhajis done and things like that. And we're going to make our spice mix. So first things first, get myself a decent knife. Right, pan on, get ready to cook. So heat on, leave the lid on. We're going to start. So we've got onions as our base. So let's just dice these up. So cut in half, slice, and then cut the onion a third of the way, 2/3 of the way in, so it holds together, and then we will just chop that nice and small. Okay, now the smaller you chop everything, the quicker this dish will cook. Okay, so all good curries start with onions. Okay, there's always loads and loads of onions as a good base. They kind of melt away and they add a backbone of flavour to your curries. So there we go, that's one onion, and then I've got half here as well. Okay. So hopefully you all enjoyed our little Irish empanadas the other day. We absolutely devoured them in the house. They were really, really good. And we also had a nice little pint of Guinness, which was really nice. It was we don't often drink it, but it made a nice change. So, sweet potato, okay? Peeled already. I'm just going to nick those little ends off, and then I'm going to cut these into slightly bigger pieces than I'm going to with the butternut squash, because it's a less dense flesh, this, and it will cook quicker. So if you want everything to cook at the same time, you need to make sure that this butternut squash is the vegetable that's cut the smallest, okay? Right, so sweet potatoes. Cut it down the middle. And the middle again, so I'm going to cut them into quarters and then into chunks, okay? You need to be careful with sweet potato because you don't want it to sort of melt away to nothing. And sometimes if they're cut too small, they do.
Can you use normal potatoes, please?
You can. They don't work, they're not as nice in my opinion, but yeah, totally you can. I mean, there are lots of curries out there that have potatoes in. I mean, sagaloo is, you know, Bombay potatoes, things like that. They're all there. So let's get our pan. Look, it's nice and hot. Let's get some oil in there and get everything going. Okay. So before we get onto the butternut squash, let's get the onions in. Oh, love that sound. In it goes, and then our sweet potatoes. Now, I'm going to season this up. It's really important that you season things as you go. The salt will draw the moisture out and help it cook evenly. Now, I'm just going to pop these onto my pan, and I won't burn my hands. Perfect. Right, so pop the lid on, but leave it ajar slightly. Oh, those onions are strong. Poppy would be moaning about that. Okay, let's have a quick wipe down. Now, time for a bit of a cookery lesson. Butternut squash. Okay. You could use pumpkin if you wanted to. If you haven't got butternut squash, double up on your sweet potato, okay? Because you just want that nice sort of substance to it. So, to prepare a butternut squash, cut the top and the bottom off. And then it's safer, okay? It means we can now work on peeling it. Let me grab a smaller knife. Cut the round bit at the bottom, cut that off, so about 1/3 of the way up, because that bit is a completely different shape to that bit. So peeling it all in one go, it's not an option. Okay, so we've now got the top bit, the sort of the tube of it. Just cut down and turn each cut and then turn it. Can you see that all right, Emily? Good. Does that make sense? Good. I like it when I make sense to you. Okay, so you can see there, peeled, apart from that little bit there I missed. Okay, all peeled and ready. So now the second bit. I'm just going to run my knife around the squash, just like if you were peeling an apple, okay? Just take your time. And what's probably more important is you're comfortable. If you're comfortable, you're confident. If you're confident, you're capable. If you're uncomfortable and nervous, that's when you run the risk of cutting yourself. Emily's looking at me now a bit strange.
If you aren't confident with a knife, can you use a peeler?
You can use a peeler. Let me just pop this in the bin and I'll show you. I would go for like a speed peeler, this Y-shaped peeler, because what you can do is you can just kind of do it like that. Yeah? But sometimes butternut squash skins are quite thick and they're quite hard to peel. But, you know, it's what you're comfortable with. That's the most important thing. Because if you're comfortable, you're much safer. Right, so we've got our butternut squash. The only problem is we've got seeds in the middle there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it in half and I'm going to cut it in quarters. And now, a bit like a melon, because they are actually part of the same family, squashes and melons. Did you know that, Emily?
I didn't actually.
Same family.
You learn something new.
And then just scoop the seeds out, just like it was a Gallium melon or a cantaloupe or something like that. There you go. And then just, if you miss any, just use your knife and just scoop it out. But if you kind of think like a cucumber, it's very similar, isn't it? And a squash and pumpkins, they're a bit similar in a way.
You blow my mind, Pete.
There you go. It doesn't take much, does it? Blown her little mind. Right. She's wishing Poppy was here and Thomas for a bit of backup, but... Right. So, it's like when Jamie Oliver first hit the TV screens, Emily. There was always that voice behind the camera.
Yeah.
And nobody ever knew who she was. You are that voice. You are that voice. Right, so... come to these bits in a minute. This is the juicy bit. This is the bit we want to go for. Now remember, small chunks, okay? So, hey up, Emily's jumped into action. Are we all right? Are we cut in, Emily, on this? Can we cut in on this? So we can see the details. So, because we cut its top and its bottom off, it's not going anywhere. It's nice and safe. We're going to run a nice, decent-sized cook's knife through, and we're going to cut it into 1 centimetre thick slices. Then we're going to cut it long ways into chips, and then we're going to turn it the other way, and we're going to do it into 1 centimetre dice. Take your time and just do one slice at a time, and then you'll be nice and safe, okay? And it's easy to do. I actually quite like just roasting this with a bit of garlic and sage, and then stir it through some pasta with a little bit of butter and olive oil, parmesan. So good, so good. But butternut squash pumpkins are really good for curries. They really work well.
What could you use as the replacement to sweet potato and squash? If you use the vegetables?
Yeah, I mean, you can use normal potatoes if you want. You could use carrots if you haven't got sweet potato, squash. They're sort of similar, not the same. You could use celeriac. With a slightly sort of celery flavour but a potato texture, that would work. Yeah. Right, so all our butternut squash is diced. Get the butternut squash in and then we can get the bulk of the cooking done. So let's just have a quick look at that. Give it a really good stir. Can you see in the pan there, Emily? Okay, marvellous. Now, let's get some serious flavour in there. Let's get some garlic in. I'm just going to slice it up. I'm not going to dice it. I'm not going to mince it. Nothing. Just slice it up and in it goes. And then I've got some ginger. Now I am going to grate that straight in. Okay, so I've got a plane here. Sit it on top of the pan and just grate it straight in. Ginger and squash and sweet potatoes work really, really well. You don't even have to peel the ginger. Just have that little bit left. It's quite a young piece, so it's not, you know, old and gnarly. If you find a piece in the back of the fridge that you haven't used for a long time, I would peel that, but if you've just bought it fresh, it'll be fine. Here we go. Now, coriander, okay? Talk to you about this. Coriander leaf is very delicate and it is perfect for finishing food. Coriander stalk is packed full of flavour. And what I want you to do is take your handful of coriander, remove the stalk, put the leaf back in the bowl for later. Let's take the stalk. You smell it, it's really strong, okay? And it will take cooking. So let's put it in early and get the benefit of the flavour. So, coriander stalk in nice and early, because it'll take the cook. There we go. It's already starting to smell good. Really good. So, I'm going to leave the lid off now because I want moisture out. And these pans are brilliant for trapping moisture in because these little nobules there, is that a word, Emily? Nobules? Yeah. These little dimples on the top of the pan mean that when you put the lid on, all the moisture hits the top of the pan and comes back down into the sauce. So for stewing things, amazing, because it keeps all the moisture in your pan and you don't lose it through sort of dehydration and reduction. But I want the moisture out of this curry because I want flavour, I want maximum flavour, so that means getting rid of as much moisture as you can. Okay, so, does that all make sense, Emily? Marvellous. Right, I've got chickpeas that are washed and drained, okay? Quick tip for you, if you ever drain chickpeas, keep that water, particularly if you have anybody in your family who is a plant-based eater or vegan, because you can whip that up into meringues and do all sorts with it. It's really, really clever. So, chickpeas in, full of iron, really, really good for you. Good cupboard staple. Right, let's turn my pan lid over. Right, I'm going to pop this pestle and mortar there, Emily. Can you see that? I can see it. Lovely. Right, let's talk spices. Now, there are quite a few on this, so I'm going to grab my piece of paper. I'll be honest, I can't remember them all. Right, now, this is a beautiful combination of flavours. And the great thing is, once you've mixed it all, keep it in a jar, on the shelf, and you've got it. You can sprinkle it on chicken, salmon, vegetables, fish, sea bass. It's absolutely beautiful. You know, if you want that nice, fragrant curry flavour, not hot, this is not a vindaloo, it's not going to blow your top off, it's full of fragrance and flavour. So what have we got in it? We've got, I'll list them out for you, but we'll have the recipe on masterclass.co website. Please make it, it's brilliant. So, 2 teaspoons of ground coriander, 2 of cumin, 2 of garam masala, 2 of ginger, 2 of paprika, 2 of turmeric, 1 of ground cardamom. If you've only got whole cardamom, crack them out of the pods and grind them, okay? And then use them. Don't grind the pod because it'll be really husky and fibrous and it won't be very nice. 1 teaspoon of salt, 1.5 teaspoons of ground black pepper, 1 teaspoon of chili powder, so it's not a lot, and if you want none in it, don't put any in, you can add a tiny bit if you want. 2 teaspoons of garlic powder and 2 teaspoons of onion powder or granules. Okay, so they're all in here. I'm just going to push them all in. And we're going to blend it all together. And it will make the most amazing, fragrant combination, like a dry spice. Okay. Even my mother would like this, and she doesn't like any spices, okay? There's hardly any in there. So, is that the best place to leave my pestle and mortar, Emily?
You can put
Or do you want it on the board? Ooh, okay, there we go. Are we good? And then let's just mix it together. Now, if you haven't got a pestle and mortar, don't worry. Get yourself a container, put it all in, put the lid on, and shake it. It'll do exactly the same thing. I just quite like blending it like this, particularly I've got some onion granules in here, so I want to grind them down a little bit. And my salt was coarse sea salt, so I needed to grind it down a little bit. But if you're using table salt, absolutely fine. And it won't need a grind. So there you go. So if I show you, can you see that, Emily?
Yeah, nice.
Yeah? Beautiful, isn't it? Oh, smells so good. So we'll get our container. It's an airtight container, this one. So it will just sit happily for 6-8 weeks, no problem. It will be absolutely fine for 2 or 3 months, but obviously the longer you leave it, the less vibrant it becomes. So if you're only making this for 1 or 2 of you, or, you know, half the recipe, go down to 1 teaspoon of everything, okay? Oh, there we go. This would work really well on potatoes as well. If you wanted to kind of make your own version of Bombay potatoes, amazing. You like the idea of that, don't you, Emily?
Yeah, I do.
You do, don't you? And what you can do, actually, is you can get a butternut squash, you can peel it, slice it like a Hasselback, and sprinkle it in spices and roast it and serve it with yogurt and mint. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Right, so, where's my spoon? Right, we're going to add some spices now. Now, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of that, and then the rest is going on the shelf, ready for another day. Now the kitchen is going to start. If you had smell-o-vision, you would understand this dish. It is just wonderful. Okay, there we go. Right, let's get a cloth. Let's just have a little wipe down. Any more questions, Emily, for me today? Or are we all good? It's her birthday this week. She's cruising. Cruising into her weekend off.
It's just gotten really, really good.
It is, isn't it? No, it's good. And it's not a hot, like, blow your head off. And let's be honest, we're all missing the Indian restaurants and things like that. So it's a good...
Is it good one to freeze?
Yeah, totally. It actually gets better with flavour. Sorry, with time. So today it'll be delicious. Tomorrow it'll be amazing. And then the next day, and it kind of matures. So always, bulk it up. Batch cook. Make more than you need. Pop it into some reusable containers and into the freezer for another day. It's perfect for that. Now, if you are a big meat eater, and this is like, oh, where's the meat? Add some chicken to it if you want to. It's perfect for making a big batch of it. And then if you've got some leftover roast chicken, you could sort of batch it and mix and put some with some chicken or roast lamb or, whatever you like. It's what you want to do with it. So, chopped tomatoes, they're going to go in the pan. There we go. And because the kids are going to have this, I wanted to make it a lot milder. So we're adding a tin of coconut cream, okay? But you don't have to. It's your choice. If you don't like a creamy curry, I'd add another tin of tomatoes to it and maybe a bit of vegetable stock. But because the kids like a creamier curry, we're adding some coconut cream. You can add milk, but you need to be careful it doesn't split. Okay? And obviously, this makes it all dairy-free at the moment, which is handy. So it is a really beautiful vegan dish at the moment, this one. And you can kind of see now, once I'm stirring it all together, it's just lovely and creamy. It just looks great. And I think sometimes curries just all look the same. Everything just it's just a big pot of melting sauce. Whereas this, you can see all the ingredients. You can add more spice if you want to. Right, so I'm going to turn the heat up and we're going to let that simmer. Now, I don't want to lose any moisture, so I've put the lid square on this one, so all the moisture and evaporation will hit the roof and drop back into the pan. So it's great for that. You were about to ask me a question, Emily, weren't you?
I was, yes.
I could see you on the edge of your seat.
If you got tomatoes,
Yeah.
would you use fresh?
Yes, but you need to be careful of the skins. So fresh tomatoes, when they cook, their skins come away. So tin tomatoes is something just everyone has them in their cupboard, don't they, really? And they're really useful to have. I would always make sure plenty of tinned tomatoes. Now, I like an onion bhaji, and so do my family. So we're going to make simple ones, but we don't have a fryer in our house, deep fat fryer, and I don't want the whole house to smell of fried food. So what we're going to do is we've got some flour, some salt, some fennel seeds, coriander seeds, nigella seeds. I've got some yeast. I've got some garam masala. I've got some turmeric. And what was the last one? The last one was some coriander seeds. Or have I said that, Emily? I don't think I've said that. We'll go with I haven't said that. Check the recipe. Okay, so we've got some spices, we've got some flour, we've got some yeast in there, okay? And now we're just going to add a little bit of water, and we're going to make a batter, okay? So, about 200 mils of water into this will make us a nice batter, okay? A bit like you would, sorry? Yeah. So it's not a really thick batter because we don't want it stodgy, okay? We want a nice, thin, spiced batter that's just going to kind of hang on to the onions, okay? I'm also going to put a splash of vinegar in because that will help with the crispiness of the batter, all right? Now, onion. What we're going to do is we're going to cut it in half, and we've got to get really, really thin slices because we want it to cook quickly, okay? So take your time, push your knife through and down. So away from you and back towards you. If you can't slice this thinly, don't worry. Use a mandolin if you want to. Mandolin, not a Mandalorian, a mandolin. And just slice super thin. Just take your time. Or, if you're really stuck, use a peeler, okay? You could just take a peeler and just do it like that. Can you see that, Emily?
Yeah.
Look, really, really easy.
You really won't mind it.
Well, you know. There you go, you see? Super, super thin. But I'm a bit old school and I like my knife. So I'm going back to my knife. But if a peeler works for you, then use a peeler. Practice makes perfect, that's what I say. I dread to think how many onions I have chopped in my professional life. I don't even look at what I'm doing anymore now. I just chop and I can chat away. Everyone always asks, how on earth do you chop an onion and talk to a camera or talk to people on stage without chopping your hands? And there have been very few times that I've chopped myself when I've done it, but I have cut myself on stage before, and it wasn't fun. But I think I got away with it. Okay. Right, so there are my sliced onions. Now, a little bit of salt. I'm going to sprinkle it on my onions because this is going to help me get rid of the moisture and the water out of my onions. So when we plunge it into the batter, we get a really nice kind of crisp. So if I start to scrunch these, can you see all the water coming out of there, Emily?
Oh,
yeah. Yeah? That water is the enemy. We do not want it. But look how much water is coming out. And this is why onions don't always caramelise nicely, because you've got to get rid of the water first. Then the sweetness of the onion starts to caramelise. But you can kind of see now how much I've got out of there. Okay? And it is worth the time and the effort. Now if you haven't got the strength to do that, put the onions in a sieve with the salt and sit it over a bowl and give it an hour. And then it'll do it all by itself. Osmosis will kick in, okay? And the salt will just drain out all by itself. But I'm impatient, and you don't want to be sat here watching that drip for an hour. So I'm using my muscles to get rid of all the moisture. Here we go. Last little bit, and then I'll get rid of this chopping board. But it really does make you realise, if I... Look, I'll show you this, Emily. Look how much water is coming out of that onion. All that. Yeah? is all the water, and that will stop the bhaji's being crispy. So we need to get rid of it. Clear it up because I've made a mess. Okay, let's just wipe this up, and then we're not far off getting these in the oven. Right, so we now have our onions in the bhaji mix. And now, look at that, that looks like normal bhaji mix, doesn't it? Okay, so all we need to do is take our muffin tin, and we're going to take a little bit of oil. See if I've got any in there. Okay, to there.
A little bit across towards the cooker.
Okay, there. Is that better? Okay, so let's get a little bit of oil in each one. Just enough to sit at the bottom. There we go. And then take your bhaji mix. So you want a spoonful in each one. Okay, just tuck it in like that. It shouldn't take too long. And then we'll get these into the oven. And they don't take long, about 20 minutes till they're really lovely and crispy. And you can make more than you need and freeze them, because they do, to be fair, reheat really nicely, really easily. You can take them out of the freezer, straight from frozen, whack them straight on a non-stick tray into the oven, 15 minutes and they're done.
And is that once they're cooked? Or?
Yeah, once they're cooked. Once they're cooked, make more than you need, cook more than you need, and then freeze them. And then just pop them in the oven from frozen as you're heating up your curry or whatever you're doing, and off you go. But there you go. Perfect, look at that. 9 exactly. Using that one big onion there. And then, because I want the top to be crisp as well, a little oil on the top. I actually, when they're cooked, like to sit them on a bit of kitchen roll just to absorb any of that excess moisture. But let's pop those into the oven for about 20 minutes. And that's at 180 degrees in a fan oven. So quite a warm oven, because we want them to cook right through. And to be honest, because the amount of water I've pushed out of those, they're going to cook and crisp up quite easily. Let's have a look at the curry. Ooh, smells good. Can you see that, Emily? Look at that. Oh, nice. So it is cooking away nicely. I'm not losing any of my moisture because I've used this lid. Right, these onion bhajis are done. Let me bring those out. There we go. Curry is ready, so let me get a ladle. And then we're going to serve this up. Now, let those bhajis rest just for a minute. I am going to finish my curry with a good wedge of lemon, because I really like lemon on it. I've actually got some pomegranate seeds as well. And do you remember, we used the stalk of the coriander in the curry, and now the leaf, just gently chop it up. Don't press hard on it because you don't want to bruise the herbs. Just want to slice them up so they're ready. My pomegranate is ready there as well, and I've got some beautiful thick yogurt. So let's turn this one off. In fact, I'm going to move the bhajis over there. I'll get those out in a second. How's that, Emily? Is that in about the right place? All right, so let's get some of this curry. Oh, it smells amazing. It's going to be a big hit, this one. Right, let's pop that there. I'm going to put some coriander on it because it's just, I love coriander. If you're not a coriander fan, it's really interesting. It's very polarizing. You either love coriander or you hate it. If you don't like coriander, put fresh mint on it, and it really adds that fragrance to it. I'm going to squeeze a lemon juice. There we go. Just cuts the richness of the coconut milk. And then I am going to put a massive dollop of Greek yogurt on the top. This is lovely Greek yogurt. Well, it's not Greek, it's from Lancashire actually, but it's Greek style yogurt. But it is lovely, it's rich and creamy, And then I'm going to take my pomegranate, just use a fork and just scrape a couple of the seeds out. You don't need loads. And if you just crush the pomegranate, the juice will go everywhere, which is fine, but I want you to be able to see the vibrant colours of the curry. So I'm going to pop that there like that, and then let's get a couple of these bargies out. I'm just going to use a knife. Because of the non-stick coating, they will just pop out. I'm going to stick them here. They are going to be absolutely delish. Now, next week we are on Wednesday for supper at 6, okay? And we're going to make a beautiful pasta dish with some lemon, fresh herbs and prawns. And I'm going to talk to the kids and see what else they want to make with that. We might make some garlic bread. I don't know, we'll have to wait and see. But we will be back at 6 o'clock on Wednesday on masterclass.co. We're doing Masterclass Juniors. It'll be an amazing dish. I hope you all have a fantastic weekend. And don't forget, if you want the recipe, go to masterclass.co and you will find it there. And please, 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 if you like what we're doing, share it with your friends, because we'd love to invite more and more people into the kitchen and kind of get involved in what we're making. So thank you very much. Have a great weekend.